welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with a daily race seat, driving at Suzuka in the Group 3 cars. You can see myself starting from P3 with a qualifying time of 1 minute 58.8 I think it was. The lap was okay, it could have been better, but this was around, I think it was around 1-2 o'clock. It was a weekend race, so reasonably competitive lobby. You can see mainly S rated, A plus, and pretty much half the field was A rated also. So starting from P3, straight away off the start, you can see the Ferrari is going to be fast straight away in front of me, so I'm not really going to be able to make a move on that Ferrari. I've just got to make sure the Porsche behind me can't make a move into turn 1, but that's pretty much a given. So I just go over to the defensive line a little bit, but that Ferrari's having a little go straight away at P1, Derek in P1 there. The Ferrari obviously is such a fast car in a straight line, but through the corners very tricky. You can see straight away on turn 1 he had a little bit of an issue with oversteer. I'm getting very close at this stage. You can see he's run a little bit wide there. I'm going to go side by side with him through this corner, nearly contact, but we managed to go without contact. And then the Porsche decides to try and go around the outside, technically the inside, but puts himself on the outside, and then the inside for this corner. I try and hang it on the outside there, manage to hold around the outside and just about keep that position. You can see Adams, J Adams 2010 on the in the Evo behind there, also trying to get past, but not able to make that move, and I've managed to hold on to P3. So quite a fast action start there, a lot of stuff going on, and I've managed to hold on to P3 and the Ferrari. So pretty much ecstatic after all that, but a really great open few corners. I really wanted to get past that Ferrari for obvious reasons. We all know how poor that Ferrari is on tyre wear, and with this being Suzuka, a track that really does take the life out of your tyres, it was really I had to give it all to try and get past him. I tried my best, couldn't make it move, had to back out of it or we would have both crashed. And then the Porsche behind me saw the opening and tried to go for it, and I managed to hold him off also. But I've really got to try. I knew straight away I really had to do all I can really to try and get past that Ferrari. However, first few laps the Ferrari is going to be very strong at Suzuka. It's a very fast car here, one of the faster cars when it's got its grip on its tyres. However, once the tyre wear starts kicking in, that Ferrari is going to massively struggle. So that's why I really wanted to get past him on lap 1, just so that by lap 4 I'm not getting held up by him. I didn't expect to really be able to hang with him too much for the first maybe lap or 2, but I knew it would come back to me when the tyre wear kicks in. As you can see, just trying to concentrate on making sure the Porsche can't get past me at this stage, trying to get in that Ferrari's any slipstream that I can pick up off that Ferrari. But the Ferrari's so fast down the straights, you can see he's pulling away, but luckily I'm able to defend from that Porsche behind me, a very fast driver just behind me there. And P1 Derek just about staying ahead of that Ferrari. You can see he's got about maybe just under a second or a second gap, and now I need to try and work my way up to that Ferrari. I know that car is going to be a difficult car to drive. I know it's going to start struggling when the tyre wear kicks in, so I was really trying to push reasonably hard, but not so hard that I start taking risks. I didn't want to spin it. This track is such an easy track to make a mistake on in these Group 3 cars. And the main thing now is to try and see if I can get back in the slipstream with that Ferrari, and then when his tyre wear kicks in, try and put him under pressure, because Derek looks like he's starting to pull away a bit there. You can see up ahead he's building a little bit of a gap up, and that could really be a pain, that, because I need to really be hanging on to Derek in this race and trying to push him to the end. But it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do it at the moment, because I'm having a little bit of difficulty even just holding on to the Ferrari at the moment. But the Porsche behind me obviously keeping me pushing hard. You can see just under half a second behind, and it looks like J Adams had a little bit of contact or something that's knocked him down to P6. He was very fast at this track, and that Evo really was hooking it up. So I knew that he was going to be behind and he was going to be very fast. So he's probably now, during this phase, he's stuck behind the guy. He's probably just trying to save some fuel, because it was a good idea if you had a slipstream. But again, it seems like a lot recently I'm not able to get in the slipstreams to save the fuel. You can see I'm just outside that slipstream, the gap that's needed to get in the slipstream. But even then, when I did get in the slipstream with this Ferrari, I really wanted to make an effort to try and get past him. So you can see getting that gap up to nearly 8 tenths, which is good, because it means I don't have to worry too much about P4 making a move anywhere. And you can see the Ferrari already starting to struggle after 2 laps. This is what's going to happen with this Ferrari. It's such a hard car to drive. I've obviously driven it quite a lot. It's nice while the tyres are there, but as soon as them tyres start fading, they just give up on you, and that's why you have to drive it very different. You have to be very smooth. It's a better option with the Ferrari is to just do it full on fuel saving with it and use a lower mixture that creates less aggression to the rear tyres, and it just helps prolong the tyre life as well. can see now, looking back on myself, trying to put some pressure on that 458 in front of me, the Ferrari, and it really is this is the time now where I've got to start really putting pressure on, because he's going to start struggling, the other cars are going to start catching up, and we're all going to group up together. And this is what I was a little bit wary of. As you can see, a little bit of a moment there for the Ferrari, and I think I also had a very slight moment there as well, but just about got away with that. You can see through these corners, able to pretty much live with the Ferrari, but then as soon as we get to the acceleration zones, that Ferrari will pull away. You can see on this TV replay camera now just how close everyone is building up. You can see Derek just starting to build up that little bit of a lead, where the Ferrari is starting to hold people up. You can see I was trying to have a little look on the inside there, but just not being able to make any sort of gains. And then obviously in the power zones, there's not much the Porsche can do against a Ferrari, but just look at that Ferrari struggling for the traction. It's such a hard car to drive without obviously using no traction control and stuff like that. It will just bite at any opportunity. The tyres just give up far too quickly on it. I think they really do need to have a little look at that, because you know, the Ferrari, if it had a little bit better tyre life, would be a car that a lot of people would use, but because it just kills the tyres for the racing, you end up going back rather than forwards in the races. You can see I love that replay camera angle, watching the cars go past there into the 130R, and you can see again getting very close through the 130R and just not really close enough to make a move. So there's no point lunging one up the inside there. I've decided just to hold back and try and get as close as I can to the Ferrari going down the start straight to see if I can pick up a slipstream. But again, the Porsche just hasn't got the legs to get into a good enough slipstream to make a move. You can see I'm in the slipstream, but I'm just not really making any gains. It's just the car's just not really fast enough to do it. So you can see now going into turn one, going to downshift into third gear, try and take a nice tight line, keep it smooth. You can see the Ferrari is really starting to struggle. You can see the rear end twitching around, and you can see again there on the power on the curb, nearly lost it. And this is the moment I could see he's starting to struggle. I really wanted to make a move. I wanted to get past him. I'm starting to get held up at this stage, and again a massive move, and I've got a lift off there. Decided to try and take a wide line into this corner so that I can get a tight entry into the next corner and then get on the power earlier. But again, you can see it's not really worked, and again I tried to get on the power too early, and again look at that, I'm really trying my hardest to get on the power to make a move. I was really trying to get aggressive, but then again I've gone a little bit too aggressive and the rear started to give up on me also. But that Ferrari really struggling, and it's holding a lot of people up. You can see the cars building up behind us now. We've got 4 cars all together, and Derek in the lead there. He's starting to pull away, 3 seconds ahead of myself. So I knew that I really did need to make a move somewhere. If there was really going to be any chance, I had to go for it. But to be honest, I was pretty confident that that Ferrari was probably going to make a mistake on its own, because it's you know, I've driven it on Brands Hatch, I've driven it in Nürburgring, I've driven it in, you know, the FIA season, so I know what that car is like once a tyre wear kicks in. And this next lap is going to be the true test of if he can hold it together. And again, going through the long left-hander, the rear starts to step out. Some really good driving to hold that though. He drifted it around the corner and managed to get a really good exit from that corner, which has really helped him out, you can see. And then the Ferrari's power just taking him away from me. Again, I just can't do nothing about that. There's not much the Porsche can do in terms of its power, but the Porsche reasonably good on its tyres, reasonably aggressive through the 130R, and getting very close to that curb, a curb that you've got to be so careful on in these Group 3 cars. It can just spin you out at any moment. And now going through the final chicane onto the start straight, getting again close to that slipstream, but you're going to see again the power of that Ferrari starts to take it away. And now I'm going to have to go a little bit defensive against the Porsche behind me. I can see him in my mirror, so I'm just going to go over to the right hand side of the track, make him aware that I know he's there, let him go down the left hand side. He can't really make a move down that left hand side. It's not really an overtaking opportunity, but the Ferrari up ahead has gone too deep into that corner. The tyre wear has kicked in and he's spun it round, and finally I can now just try and concentrate on the road ahead through this section. This was where the Ferrari was starting to hold me up a little bit. Obviously on the straights it wasn't holding me up, but through this section it really was causing a little bit of an issue. As you can see now, look at the 2 cars very close to myself. Jay Adams in the Evolution, and Oscar, I think it's Oscar, I don't know if it's an Oscara driver in P2. I can't remember if it was definitely an Oscara driver. We'll have a little look in a minute when we go onto the full screen with the names. But some really good racing going on here now with 3 cars battling away. Derek in the lead managed to get, you know, luckily for himself, started ahead and kept that lead, and it was really important for him. I think that the Ferrari had good pace for the first 2 laps, but then lap 3 and 4 it did start to hold everyone up. You can see now the advantage obviously that these 2 drivers have got behind me is a fuel advantage. They're able to save more fuel than I can whilst they've got a slipstream, and short shifting, obviously in the evolution there, picking up a double toe and able to really just concentrating on short shifting and probably saving fuel. I was pretty confident that that's what Jay Adams would have been doing at this stage, just holding back, because if he starts fighting, he's probably going to lose time. He knows that he's going to probably be able to jump us when we come to the pit stop phase, so he was probably just sitting back, saving the fuel, and then knowing that he can then jump me and the other Porsche driver in the pits. You know, the Porsche's not amazing at fuel saving, but we also haven't got I haven't got a slipstream to work with. If I had a slipstream, you know, a good solid slipstream throughout the whole race, I wouldn't be for the first stint. I probably would have been able to do a bit more fuel saving. You can see again going into turn 1, trying to take it nice and easy. I didn't want to brake too late, making sure on the pit entry that I get a solid entry and don't lose too much time. Pushing on the entry there, you can see, and going into the pits with a little bit more fuel than the Oscar Ruse behind me. It's Oscar Ruse, sorry, it's not an Oscar driver. And Jay Adams on massive amount of fuel saved on 35%, so he managed to save about 15% more fuel than myself, sorry, 16% more fuel than myself, so he was going to jump me by quite a big margin, obviously, with that amount of fuel saving. I decided to short fuel a little bit, because obviously on the last stint you use a little bit less fuel than the first. Also, it's one thing I will say, you know, don't always go to the diamond anyway, because it will you're heavier on that first stint. You'll end up using a slight less amount of fuel on the last stint when the car's a bit lighter. You can see I've actually got slightly out of the slipstream of the P4, but he's going to really start pushing to get back in that slipstream. I take it a little bit too easy on my outlap, you can see, not really taking any risk. You can see Jay Adams has pulled ahead, got himself a good 2-second lead in front of myself, and Derek up ahead, just 4 seconds ahead. So I don't really know what fuel saving he had done on that first stint. I didn't check it out when we got through to the pit stop phase. I didn't have a look to see what he had done, but he's in a good position there in P1, 4 seconds ahead, 4.4, 4.5 seconds ahead, and P2 there, Jay Adams really starting to push. I'm obviously trying to push reasonably hard. I've got that Oscar Ruse right behind me there, 1.1 seconds behind, and he's going to be trying to get in the slipstream as much as possible. You can see it's a little bit of short shifting that I'm doing just on the exit of the corners, just to not over rev second gear and use too much fuel, because I still need to be a little bit cautious with the fuel to the end. But I should be okay to drive it on one mixture right way to the finishing line. But now again, going through this long left-hander, you can see Jay Adams starting to build that lead up a little bit. He's gained about 2-3 tenths on me on this lap so far. He's obviously really driving this aggressive now. He was really fast at this track, was driving really well. He was definitely faster than myself at this combination in these cars. I haven't tried the Evolution at this track out. Maybe it's a car I should try out. I've never really tried the Evolution out at all in the Group 3 cars. And you can see there, going a little bit wide, bringing it straight back on the track as soon as possible. That's the biggest thing I can do, is if you do run wide there, make sure you don't extend too much, because you will get a penalty. If you bring it back in fast like I did, you won't get a penalty. However, I have lost about 3-4 attempts there by doing that. You can see the Porsche behind me is getting so close to picking up that slipstream. He's just over a second behind me. Jay Adams has started to pull away, and now I'm over 5.4 seconds behind Derek, as he's obviously gone for a really fast lap. You can see Derek has pushed on that lap and got a 1:59.4, really gone for it. And that's one thing I don't feel confident at doing at this track in the Group 3 cars. I feel in the Super GT cars I felt a little bit more confident. In Group 4 cars I really feel confident in this track in the Megane. It's one of my strongest combinations, but once you're in the Group 3 cars, I don't feel 100% confident. I may need to try out some other cars really, because I feel like the Porsche is a little bit, I like it, it's got good grip, but I just don't feel 100% confident at this track in this car. I think I need to really have a little experiment with some different cars and see if other cars suit my style a little bit more here. I may actually try that Evolution at some point, although I know that car is probably going to be a tricky car again. But again, you can see P4 getting in my slipstream now, just 7 tenths behind. So now I've got to really be cautious that I don't let him get too close to make a move. He's obviously going to be able to pick up that slipstream and use it to his benefit. But again, I get a solid exit from that corner, increasing my gap a little bit, but then the slipstream is going to bring him back into play. And now Jay Adams staying around 3.3 seconds. You see he's not pulling away too much, 3.2 seconds. But I think he's gone a little bit wide there. A yellow flag, he's actually lost it on the curb. These curbs at Suzuka will just take you out at any opportunity, and it's took Jay Adams out there. I think it actually took him out last time I raced him in I don't know if it was a Group 3 or a Group 4 race, but exactly the same thing has done it to him again, and unfortunately he's lost that position, which was a benefit to myself obviously, because now I can try and concentrate on holding off P3 and keeping this P2, but it's going to be a hard task, you know, trying to push this car around there. it's so easy to make mistakes, but doing okay at the moment, maintaining that gap around 7 tenths to 8 tenths, and that's okay. I don't mind the gap of Suzuka around there, and I'm actually starting to gain a little bit on P1 now, where he's probably gone for his one fast lap and is probably just settling down into a steady routine of just keeping the tyres and obviously saving the fuel to the finishing line. You may not have had the fuel to go aggressive all the way, but I did notice that the gap was staying around 5.5 seconds around that margin. We're going to go on board now with P3 following myself as we go through the twisty section at Suzuka, and you can see both of us fairly equal through this section, not massively different. He's getting a little bit of a slipstream advantage, but again, getting good lines through the corners, skimming the apex of that curve pretty much perfectly there, and getting on the power nicely, and actually pulling away a little bit from P3 during that little phase, and then going through to the 2 right hand corners, really aggressive through there. You've got to be careful you don't go too aggressive, as P3 nearly does that and loses the rear nearly, but gets away with it. But he actually ends up, because he's pushed it that hard, he got very close again to getting a really good slipstream from myself. So I go for the early entry into apex, and you can see different lines. Don't really know which is better. Sometimes I feel like my line's worse, but then when I look at the delta, it gains and loses differently. It's really hard to work out. You can see visually there now the gap's not massively changed, it's pretty much static, and at this phase doing okay, not losing too much, not letting him gain too much on me. As long as I get a solid exit off this corner, he's not really going to be able to make a move going down into the 130R. You can see, so I picked the throttle up nice and early, and again he's picking the slipstream up now. He's going to build up a little bit closer and closer and closer as we're coming to the end of lap 8, going through the 130R and trying to get a nice early entry. I really wanted to carry speed through this corner, and actually turned in too early, a little bit of understeer onto the curb, and I 360'd it, clipped the wall on the right side and then again on the left, and luckily don't end up facing the wrong way, so just about get it back on the track. And unfortunate, an unforced error, that was my own fault. I turned in too early on the apex, clipped the gravel, and then because of the oversteer tried to correct it, created understeer, ran onto the curb, tried to stay on the power because I didn't want to give up that position, and ended up spinning it all the way around. But unfortunately, a mistakes happen, but this track, you've got to be so careful, and luckily kept P3, and now I've just got to try and get the rhythm back together. One thing that happens when you do make a mistake like that, your tyres do take a bit of wear out. I have noticed it quite a few times now. When you do quite a lot of spinning like that, where it's multiple spins, the car will start feeling a little bit sketchy through some of the corners for a few, for half a lap or so. So just trying to take it a little bit easier, just trying to settle down. I don't want to make another mistake. I don't want to lose this podium finish. It's some very good drivers in this lobby, as you've seen from the start. Pretty much, half the lobby was A+ and S rated drivers, the other half was A rated drivers. So a P3 is still an okay position. Trying to push reasonably hard to get myself back into a rhythm, but I end up, whenever I do a mistake like that, I do find it hard to get back into the rhythm and just start concentrating. So looking at the gaps, you can see P2 has got very close to P1. It looks like, I think he's only 5-6 seconds ahead. Maybe he hasn't made a mistake P1, but P2 is definitely too far out of reach. I'm not going to be able to get close enough to him. I've just got to ensure that P4 doesn't get any closer than that. So now I've just got to start concentrating and getting a reasonably good last lap. So let's have a little look at this lap as we go over the line, just to see how much time I've lost on this. Obviously the lap before, 2:03, lost about 3 seconds with that spin, which was a bit unfortunate, maybe about 3.5 seconds, something like that. And then this lap has been a little bit scruffy, you can see, with P2 being over 4 seconds ahead of myself. And again, going wide on the corner and coming so close to losing it again. Was really struggling through that corner, wasn't really hooking it up, was getting too nervous on the corner, wasn't being committed enough, and that's why I ended up running wide. Going over the line, let's have a little look and see how much time I've lost. And about another second, at least a second on that lap lost, maybe it's been a little bit more. So struggling, but now I really had to just start concentrating, because I couldn't let P4 get into that slipstream. I really wanted to start putting my foot down and get a rhythm going for this last lap and make sure that I secure this P3 position. So taking this first section reasonably well so far. Hitting the apex is okay, down into second gear. The tyres are starting to wear at this phase, especially after the 360 spin that I did. That really does take life out of your tyres, with the ×7 or ×8 tyre wear that's on for these races. Trying to attack this left-hand corner, just being cautious not to put too much power down early. You can see the car starts to go a little bit loose on the rear where you're trying to be aggressive, and so far managed to pull out half a second on P4 now, so the lap's improving. I've managed to gain a little bit back on P2 now, so settling down into a bit of a rhythm and just starting to drive a bit better again. So that little moment, a few laps, really did cost me there. The massive error where 360 spun it and then running wide again on that corner, a silly error to make, very uncharacteristic. I don't tend to make too many errors like that on that corner. I do like that corner, but the understeer caught me out when it happened. I tried to turn in too early, trying to carry too much speed, and just a daft mistake to make really. But again, you can see down to 4.2 seconds, it was around 4.3, 4.4 seconds to P2, so pretty much equal. We were very evenly matched, I think, myself and Oscar Ruz in the Porsche at this track, and managing to get the gap back over 3 seconds now to P4. I think he's having a little bit of a battle with J Adams also, which is helping out. But this lap has been a lot more solid, you know, considering the tyres are really worn, the car's not in great, you know, this is pretty much, it was always light on fuel. It's not at its fastest pace, because obviously with that tyre wear at this type of track, you lose a lot of time in the tyres like that. So let's have a little look at what the lap time is when we go over the finishing line to take P3. So a solid result, could have been better, but 2 minutes and 5, so reasonably good, and it shows that I've definitely got the potential to get into the 159s in race conditions when I do hook it up. It was just obviously the tyres were gone for that final lap, and a good result overall. A little bit disappointed I made that mistake, because I felt like I could have got within a few seconds of P1. Obviously got held up at the start. This was obviously lap 1 where the Ferrari tried to make a move and nearly lost it on the outside there, where the grip's just gone on the rears, and then he's obviously tried to get on the power again really early, going through these really twisty corners, trying to stay with that Evo, and again he's gone too aggressive. You can see I decided to try and go around the outside here. It's never really going to work, but it was worth an attempt. Couldn't really make that work. The Porsche comes down the left hand side. I stay nice and tight to this right hand side to give the Porsche some space, and then I've got to be really cautious here. I've got to give the Porsche a little bit of space on that inside. You can see I give him a car's width, managed to stay on the power on the outside, and just about hold that P3. Now this was the moment that the rear nearly went when I was following the Ferrari behind. You'll see getting on the power, and you'll see it nearly goes there, and again just about held it. Really, that was when I was really trying to get. I was getting a little bit impatient and wanting to pass him. This was J Adams making that mistake on this corner, which is, it can just catch you out so easily, this corner. Everyone does it. I've done it, and you know, I'm sure I'll do it again. You can see there, he obviously, the car gets reset as well, which didn't help him out, because it looked like he was actually about to rejoin the track, and unfortunately he got overtaken because of that. I think without the reset he would have kept that position and probably caught myself back up. And then this was my very daft error. You'll see I turned in too early into the apex, took too much grass off, and then there the understeer tried to catch it onto the curb, put the power down, and the car just 360 spins and into the wall, and lost about 3 seconds with that. But luckily when I 360 spun it, I've managed to get back on the track, pointing the right way. I did try and do it all in one movement and get it back on, gripping on the track, but obviously I was carrying that much speed and I was on the grass on the right side. There wasn't much chance of doing that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that race. Quite an action-packed race, a thoroughly enjoyable race. Hopefully we can bring more races to the channel like that. Obviously I made the mistake. A lot of people made mistakes in that race, but got away with a podium still. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscription button. Click that notification button also, so you don't miss any future videos. I do upload every single day as much as possible. Thanks again for watching, everyone.